Hello, my name is Jeff. I'm one of the reference librarians at the Elk Grove Village Public Library, and one of my main responsibilities is to take care of the fiction collection. Main hardcover, trade paperback, could be fiction, mysteries, science fiction, westerns, and even one romance as it appears in hardcover or trade paperback. What I'd like to talk to you today is about some of the books that I've enjoyed that are in my collection, or in the library's collection. And one of the main features is a sense of setting. It's where all the action happens. It could be local, could be another state, could be another country. But if we go beyond that to another world, then we get into science fiction. But we're going to stay on Earth and work with mystery books. Well, let's start. We're going to head a little northwest of where we are. Head up to the Twin Cities and start with Steve Thayer, the Weatherman. The main character in this story is a serial killer who likes using the weather to cover up his crimes. He likes the storms and the rains and the winds to blow away clues that can help people find him. One reason I really like this book is that I went to college in Minnesota, and so a lot of the characters, the local characters and the settings are very familiar to me. One of the things is that when I was in college, we even had a tornado warning where I had to go down into the basement of the building I was living in. So yeah, so setting is a main feature and main enjoyable part of this book. Steve Thayer has other books. Feel free to check out any one of those too. But yeah, so let's stay in Minnesota, but we're going to head northwest to the Iron Range. And we're going to meet up with William Kent Kruger's Cork O'Connor. He's a local sheriff, and he tries to handle crimes in the far northwest of Minnesota. One of the main things that I like about this series, there's about 7 or 8 in this series, so feel free to jump in at any point. You're welcome to start at the beginning too, and go all the way through. One of the main features that I like about this series is that Cork has a good friend called Henry Malou, who is an Ojibwe healer. And so what's really interesting about this book is that it brings in the Native American, the Ojibwe culture into the storyline. What I'd like to do now is we're going to go back in time. And we're going to go into the mid-20th century during Stalinist Russia. So we're heading east from the United States out into Stalinist Russia. Now, one of the main things with Stalinist Russia is there is no crime. Nothing bad happens in Stalinist Russia. So what do you do when this little child ends up losing her life? But if there's no crime, what do you call that? So Leo Demidov, the main character in this book, Child 44. And Leo Demidov is just a government worker, but he is so unsatisfied with the idea that he just let it go, that no one is going to investigate, no one wants to look for an answer to what happened. So yeah, Tom Rob Smith, this is actually his first book. So Leo ends up investigating the crime, which is not what the government supports him. And he does not find any support with the government to solve this crime. He even finds himself being shipped off to Siberia as punishment. But what he does, he comes back to Moscow and he finds a solution to this crime. So yeah, so we're going to stay a little outside the U.S. For one more book. Alexander McCall Smith does the #1 lady detective agency. And it's a whole series there's a dozen titles in this series. Now this is what we would call a cozy mystery. It's not a heavy it's not a heavy mystery or like murder and things like that, such as like with Child 44 or even The Weatherman. So yeah, so the #1 ladies detective agency Number One Ladies Detective Agency is more of a what we would call a cozy. So this is set in Botswana. What's really nice about this is that you get a real sense. We're talking about setting. This is setting. You really get a sense of Botswana. You hear about the different towns and different places and how the people live and what their life is like there. What I really like about this is the person who reads this is Lisette Lacaw. I believe that is the pronunciation. I apologize if it's wrong, but Lisette Lacaw really helps with giving a sense of this setting with just her vocal interpretation of the book. So yeah, so Number One Ladies Detective Agency is all about Ma Romotsoi, and so she handles little cozy crimes. One last book that I would like to say, one last book that I'd like to talk about, which I am just starting. I'm just learning about, and I know this is very, very popular, and I'd like to still recommend this, is Where the Crawdads Sing. Again, the sense of place is what happens is another familiar place. This book is set in the Atlantic, in North Carolina coast, the Outer Banks, which is, I had experience being down there during high school. So yeah, so really, being familiar with this sense of place really helps make the story come alive. So thank you for your time, thanks for your patience, and I hope you enjoy any of these titles. These titles would be available in hardcover, maybe paperback, audio recordings, or maybe even e-versions. Okay? Thank you.